And once he was done with it, they lost 6,000 teachers. So that's kind of the direction that we see in the Obama education program. And another phenomenon going on in education in the United States right now is that schools are more segregated now than they were half a century ago. Again, this is something that most people don't think about or don't know about. Gary Orfield from UCLA did a study that you can see online again at the Civil Rights Project. You know, again, this is the state of education. Obama is really not addressing the issue of segregation. The whole pushing of charter schools exacerbates problems of education, and particularly exacerbates problems for poor and minority students. So this is not change, and this is more of the same kind of thing. We can see more of the same kind of thing in the keeping of Defense Secretary Gates. We can see more of the same kind of policies with bailing out Wall Street on economic issues. Again, the economy, we could talk about that till doomsday, if doomsday hasn't gotten here yet, fiscally. But again, you see what happens fiscally. You see what's happening economically in this country. And it's interesting that the people in corporate media particularly like to call Obama a socialist. Well, it's interesting. He is a socialist when it comes to bailing out the banks. But he's not so much of a socialist when it comes to helping people who are losing jobs and losing their houses and mortgages. So we do have socialism in America. It's for the wealthy. But the rest of us have to suck it up and live in the free market fantasy world. These are real, significant issues that we should be dealing with and talking about, and they're real issues at the core of a lot of our domestic disputes and problems. However, just introducing those on backdrop, we can certainly talk more about those in Q&A later. What I'd like to do is have Dr. Araim come up and say a few words about some issues that he would like to bring to light, and then we'll actually start with our 4 speakers. So thanks again, everybody, for being here. Please stick around to the end for questions and answers, and please stick around thereafter if anybody wants to sign up for STS meetings. And if anybody is here for a professor for credit, there's a sign-in sheet in the back. You'll see Frank Running Horse holding a sheet right there. Put your name, the class, and the professor's name on it, and I'll make sure they get it in their mailboxes. Thanks again, everybody, for coming here today. And with that, well, please welcome Dr. Amer Araim.
Thank you very much. Thank you for coming. And we hope that this will be beneficial to all of us, because we'd like to learn from your experience. We would like to know beyond the class limits where you stand, what is your position, how do you think about the issues facing the nation, whether domestic issues or international issues. And for the students of Political Science 120, we will start next week discussing the international relations, and this is the topic which I am going to speak about here. And all of us, we were really optimistic at the beginning when Obama spoke about change, about involving international organizations, particularly the United Nations, about dialogue with other nations. But so far, we have not seen that much change. Really, this is the reality. I am from Iraq originally. I came here about more than 35 years ago. But really, the media is saying that the situation in Iraq is calm, but calm for American soldiers, but not for the Iraqis who are dying on a daily basis. Not for the Iraqis who are refugees. More than 2 million Iraqis are refugees abroad, and they could not return back to their country. And the administration is in a position of leaving things pass without taking any active action. And the only way to solve the Iraq problem by involving the United Nations Security Council. The United Nations Security Council should warn the Iraqi government to stop its sectarian and its other policies aimed at the minorities in Iraq, aimed at enriching the people in leadership. Corruption. Iraq is now one of the highest countries in the world in corruption. And this is the result of the occupation. The occupation created corruption in Iraq. And the only way to solve this problem is by involving the United Nations Security Council and beginning immediately the withdrawal of American troops from Iraq. There is no need to keep American troops in Iraq. They should come back to this country. We don't want to have 150,000 Americans are sitting idle in Iraq, but they are also dying, despite the fact that the newspapers and the media are not reporting about death among Americans, but there are Americans who are dying, but not at a large scale as it was before. As for the situation in Afghanistan, how many of you hear the report of the United States ambassador to Afghanistan today? And he was a military man, and he said there was no need to increase American troops in Afghanistan. Let the Security Council of the United Nations be in charge of the situation in Afghanistan and let American troops come back home. This is the only way to bring peace to Afghanistan. As for the situation in Iran, and Kajal will speak to you because she was in Iran during the election, we want to support all democratic forces in the Middle East, which are striving to establish democracy and respect for human rights. For the nuclear issue, the Security Council and the International Atomic Energy Agency should be in charge, and there should be no military strikes against Iran. Let us use peaceful measures to end this dispute. Let us not repeat the mistakes of Iraq in Iran. As for Afghanistan, as I told you, the American ambassador is calling for a freeze in the number of troops in Afghanistan. And I want to add that the Obama administration should prepare for the withdrawal of American troops from Afghanistan and to have the United Nations Security Council in charge of all these issues. This is the way to change, because in the Bush administration there was a call that we were the superpower of the world and we can do whatever we want, and that is it. But now Obama promised us that there would be a change, and we have not seen the change. And you, as students, as activists, you have to raise your voice to demand change, whether with respect to domestic policies or to international policies. I want to say one thing about the financial crisis, but I will leave it to the experts. The stimulus package did not help the poor in America. It helped the bankers. The bankers enriched themselves at the expense of the poor. And therefore, the real change, when it should take into consideration the interest of the people of the United States first, the interest of people who are oppressed, like the Palestinian people. The situation in Gaza is really alarming. People are dying because they are not getting access to food and medicine, and it is the responsibility of the international community and the responsibility of this administration, because the Obama administration is preventing the United Nations Security Council from taking action to end the tragedy in Gaza and the Palestinian territories. Thank you very much, and we will open to all your questions.
Thank you, Amer. You're a hard act to follow. I'm sure you'll correct me when I make mistakes about it. It's nice to be speaking with students. Often when you talk to the children, they would say they're our future. You are our now.
Who are you? What's your name?
My name is Natalie Russel.
Thank you.
I live in Pleasant Hill. I've been through the same space for the last 52 years.